Johnny is a weak, pathetic loser with a terrible life, but with big dreams of becoming a superhero. His mother is for the streets and frequently hooks up with strange men. One night she calls over a booty call and sends Johnny upstairs while she gets railed. Johnny does as he's told. His mother comes up to make sure Johnny is sleeping and is angry when the light is still on. She turns it off, but it only comes back on again, which makes her angry. She thinks it's Johnny, but he insists that he's not touching the light. All of a sudden, the light bulb bursts and all the lights go off inside the house. His mother goes back downstairs to continue getting railed, assuming it must just be a problem with the electricity. When she is gone, Johnny discovers that it was him that was turning the lights on and off and that he can control electricity with his mind. He tests this on lamps in the street, turning them on and off all across the city. Eventually, he causes all the power to go off all around the city and even busts the downstairs TV at the same moment the strange man busts inside his mother.
She belongs to the streets.
The next day at school, he tells his nerdy fat friend all about his new powers. He proves it by controlling traffic lights, busting a bully's radio, and stopping the school bell from ringing. The chubby boy can't believe his friend has awakened. The two of them talk about superheroes, how they originated from a group of people who all set sail to a mysterious island. They gained powers at this island and so did all of their children. This must mean that Johnny has inherited his powers from one of his parents. He knows it's definitely not his 304 mother, so it must be his father who left to get milk and never came back. A girl named Janice overhears them talking about superheroes and says she has always wanted to meet one. This makes Johnny blush as he has a crush on her. After school, Johnny and his chubby friend go to the arcade. Neither of them can afford a quarter to play any of their games.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
But it doesn't matter since Johnny just uses his powers so that they can play for free. They are spotted at the arcade by the school bullies who laugh at them and call them virgins. When Johnny gets home, he catches his mother trying to flirt with the electrician. He goes straight upstairs and starts drawing superhero costumes in a notepad. He even comes up with a name and decides to call himself Electro Boy. He shows the design to his fat friend at school, who cleans it up a little bit. They work together on turning this design into an actual costume, which Johnny creates in his bedroom. Then Johnny practices using his powers out in public, turning on the lights to a mall at night. Johnny even discovers that using his powers he is able to fly. The two decide it's time for Johnny to use his powers for good, though they quickly discover that no one in the town needs saving. It's too peaceful there. They decide to put on a show at the local pool to introduce Electro Boy to everyone. The day he plans to do this, Johnny goes up to Janice and tells her that she will achieve her dream of meeting a superhero sooner than she thinks. The chubby friend gets the camera to record the situation and Johnny uses his powers to fly over the local pool. He is spotted by everyone having fun down below. At first it goes well and everyone cheers, but the bullies quickly recognize his face, which makes him nervous. They point and laugh at Johnny, causing him to accidentally fall into the water. This electrocutes everyone at the pool. Those who didn't die from the electricity attempt to run, causing a massive car crash on the road. A truck crashes into a church and another car crashes into a gas station. There's a boom everywhere and Johnny's attempt to impress his crush turns into a mass murder real quick. Bro got that electric riz. Johnny runs away from the scene and realizes that there is no way he is going to become a superhero now after that. Instead, he comes up with the brilliant idea of becoming a supervillain instead. Bro has started his villain arc. The story skips ahead many years and we see that Johnny is in prison, specifically a Supermax prison, a prison capable of containing anyone with superpowers. Today is Johnny's release day. He exits his cell and is taunted by all the other prisoners who are jealous that he is leaving. Johnny is friendly with the guards who think they will be seeing him again soon. But Johnny promises he is going to behave and won't end up back here. His security vest is removed and he puts on a fresh set of clothes. Johnny complains to the guard about the security system, saying they smell and should be cleaned. But the guard replies that if that were to happen, they would have to update the whole control system. Johnny thinks that this would allow all the prisoners to escape. But the guard explains that it's not that deep, and if anything ever happened to the main system, there is a backup system in place that would handle it. As Johnny is leaving the prison, he is passed by a group of volunteers that are setting up for a charity celebration at the prison tonight. The celebration has been arranged by the most famous supervillain named Mr. Matz. Johnny finds it weird that a villain would be doing charity work at a prison but doesn't question it. Johnny makes it out of prison where he sees his girlfriend Casey waiting for him. Both of them kiss and hit the road. On the ride home, Johnny says that he feels good to be out of prison and Casey starts touching him. They can't keep their hands off each other, and when they finally get home they start removing their clothes. However, before they can get down to business, they are interrupted by three men waiting in the living room. These are Johnny's supervillain friends who have come over to celebrate him being released, much to Casey's disappointment. The boys have pizza and beer and sit in front of the TV. Meanwhile, the charity celebration takes place at the prison, with all the prisoners enjoying a feast. The prisoners gossip about Mr. Matz talking about how ruthless he is and how he has apparently killed 241 people. Mr. Matz is the leader of an organization of supervillains known as the Network, and he has the ability to make people's heads explode. Back at the house, Johnny is talking with his friends who say they have another heist planned and they want Johnny to help. Johnny turns up the music so no one can hear them discussing their plan. The villains plan to rob 10 different jewelry stores in 10 minutes, one store for every minute. Hitting this many places at once will cause the cops to go into a panic and will mean that there won't be any superheroes around to stop them. Johnny thinks the plan is awesome and can't believe his friends came up with it. Casey enters the room and heard everything. She doesn't want Johnny doing any more heists at the moment and wants him to keep a low profile and get a real job. His friends all laugh and ask Johnny if he really wants to work a real job like Casey, who is a waitress at a fancy cafe. His friends do their best to encourage Johnny to take part in the heist. Casey gets the friends to leave by telling them that they have been drinking too much and winking at them. All of a sudden they start to feel drowsy and drunk. They leave and it is revealed that Casey used her powers on them. She has the powers to implant illusions in people's minds. She is just happy to finally have some alone time with Johnny. After some naked wrestling, the two engage in some pillow talk, where Johnny suggests that Casey join them for their jewelry heist. However, Casey is still strongly against the idea. She tells Johnny that the heist plan has actually come from the network and that his friends didn't make it up, meaning if they do the heist they will have to pay the network a cut of the money. All Casey wants is a stable life. She begs Johnny to understand that with his power he could be doing bigger things and that for now he should lay low until a bigger opportunity comes along, instead of doing a low reward heist with his friends. To shut her up, Johnny promises that he won't do the heist.
Shut up, bitch!
But the next morning it is revealed that he lied and he goes on the heist with his friends. Bro isn't a simp. They hit all 10 jewelry stores successfully, taking whatever they can hold. After the 10th store they ride away on their bikes. When the police hear about this they check a database to see if there are any superheroes close by that can help to catch these thieves. While making a getaway, Johnny uses his powers to clear a path by controlling traffic lights. They begin to be chased by cops, which worries them, but they remain optimistic since no superheroes have showed up yet. The cops quickly surround the villains in their cars. However, Johnny uses his powers to cause all their cars to malfunction. The police also have a roadblock set up ahead. One of the villains, named Transmit, helps the group to phase through the roadblock. Meanwhile, while at work, Casey sees Johnny on the news. She is furious that he lied to her and did the heist anyway. Transmit helps the group get through another roadblock and they all try to stay focused. During the getaway, Johnny asks his friends if the heist was really planned by the network, but they do not give him an answer, saying they should just focus on escaping for now. Johnny is furious, not wanting to go back to jail a day after he has gotten out. One of the villains, named Frostbite, begins creating roads out of ice for them to ride on. The police can't follow them on these roads as their cars can't grip to the ice. The group thinks they have gotten away until they look up and see a helicopter carrying a superhero close by. This superhero is your mom, a giant whale of a creature. The villains try to ride away, but your mom is hot on their tail. Johnny hits your mom with an electric shock which hurts her only for a moment until she starts pounding the ground again. All the other villains join in helping to take down your mom. It's a villain named Kismet that saves the day, using his powers of bad luck to cause your mom to get hit by a plane and burned by chemicals. After dealing with that big juicy whale, all the villains ride away again, though they are quickly approached by yet another superhero called Rubber Ball. He's bouncy and overconfident, even taking the time to take photos with fans. Johnny can't believe all the new heroes that keep showing up in the world. It's like there's a new one every single day. He tries to shock Rubber Ball, but the hero is way too fast and is able to dodge. Rubber Ball is so confident that he starts to mock the villains while chasing them. He destroys Transmit's bike, forcing Transmit to phase onto Johnny's instead. Rubber Ball is crazy, destroying countless buildings during the chase. Frostbite creates a new ice road and Johnny finally manages to shock Rubber Ball. Unfortunately, the shock only temporarily stuns the hero and he quickly catches up to the villains. Kismet uses his bad luck powers to cause things to rain from the sky, though even this doesn't slow the hero down. Having had enough, the villains decide to use all their powers at the same time to try and get rid of the Rubber Ball. Frostbite and Transmit work together to create a maze of ice crystals. This causes Rubber Ball to crash and get taken down. He begs the villains for mercy, but Johnny electrocutes him and they crush his legs with a bike. The group makes it to the Golden Gate Bridge where they celebrate, thinking that the heist has been successful and that they have gotten away. However, as they celebrate, they are suddenly teleported off their bikes and in front of another superhero named the Praetorian. The Praetorian shuffles a deck of cards while looking down on the group of supervillains. He is a hero who has the ability to use random powers, with over 200 to choose from. He is also a member of the Union of Justice, which is a knockoff version of the Avengers. The news films the Praetorian stopping the supervillains, and people watch eagerly, placing bets on what power he is going to use. All of a sudden, the Praetorian duplicates himself into several different bodies. The villains decide to make a run for it, splitting off into different directions. It's no use though. The Praetorian slowly hunts them all down one by one and metaphorically gives them a good spanking, starting with Frostbite, who he uses fire breath against, before stomping on his face and kicking him repeatedly over and over again. Next up is Kismet, who attempts to use his bad luck powers on the Praetorian. However, the Praetorian just reflects the bad luck back onto Kismet, causing a shark to rain from the sky and swallow him whole. Johnny and Transmit attempt to steal a car to get away, but the Praetorian wastes no time teleporting in front of them. He kicks Transmit over and over again until the villain stops moving. This just leaves Johnny, who receives a punch straight to the nose. Desperate not to go back to prison, Johnny uses his powers to turn on the alarms to all the cars surrounding them, attempting to cause a distraction so he can run away. Unfortunately, the Praetorian's duplicates quickly show up to stop him. With all his friends taken care of, Johnny knows there is nothing he can do against this guy alone. Instead of beating Johnny like a bongo drum, the Praetorian starts asking questions, wanting to know how long it has been since Johnny last got out of prison. Johnny reluctantly reveals that he only got out yesterday. It hasn't even been 24 hours. The Praetorian can't believe it and feels bad. He doesn't feel right sending Johnny straight back to prison so soon. He tells Johnny to get his act together and to leave the villain life behind. Johnny promises he will, and so does all of his friends. Giving them a second chance, the Praetorian flies off into the sky without arresting them. Soon after, Casey pulls up in her car and it is revealed that this was her doing. She used her powers to manipulate the Praetorian's mind to get him to leave them alone. The supervillains are impressed and thankful that Casey came to save them. They try to recruit her to their supervillain team as her power is extremely useful. However, Casey refuses and calls the villains morons, saying they shouldn't be risking their lives for a pathetic little heist. The villains disagree, showing off all the jewelry they managed to steal today. Meanwhile, the Praetorian lands back at the Union of Justice. Inside, he is met by a cleaning lady who compliments his work today against the thieves, though she is curious as to why he chose to let them go. The Praetorian bluntly tells her that he doesn't know why he did that. Later that night, Johnny arrives home with Casey, who isn't happy that he lied to her. He said he wouldn't do the jewelry heist but did it anyway. She threatens to break up with Johnny, feeling betrayed and let down. She wishes Johnny would use his head more. The villain business is a bad place to be. Most people involved end up either dead or in prison for the rest of their lives. She suggests that Johnny pull off a really big job so that he can make a lot of money and retire, leaving the villain life behind. She wants a real life with Johnny in the future, and not one where he is in prison. With just one big job, they could make enough to live the rest of their lives comfortably. Johnny understands, but he doesn't know of any big heists like that. They are not easy to come by. That's when Casey speaks up and asks Johnny if he has ever heard of someone called the Heat. The Heat was a famous villain from the 70s who committed countless crimes, from robbing banks and jewelry stores to stealing cars. His powers involved fire. No one ever knew the Heat's real identity, and many myths and legends circulate about him as no one has seen him in years. Casey reveals that she knows the Heat well. He's like a mentor to her and taught her everything she knows about the villain business. The Heat is currently putting together a team of villains for a big job that pays $50 million. Casey doesn't know all the details but knows there is still room for one more person on the team: Johnny. The two of them jump up and down on the bed in excitement, thinking about all the money they will get from this heist. Sometime later, Casey takes Johnny to Chicago to meet with the Heat. They arrive at a laundromat with an old man sitting inside named Carmine. Bro looks like he spends his weekends golfing and catcalling women a quarter of his age.
Chip in, Eagle. You have great tits.
Elsewhere on a beach, a man named TK flirts with an attractive woman. While flirting, he steals the car keys from her purse and heads over to a garage to steal her car. As he is doing this, he receives a call from Carmine. However, before he can answer the call, he is caught stealing by a superhero named the Gladiator. In a casino are the two other villains known as the Diesel Brothers. They are invincible and are beating each other up until they also receive a call from Carmine. Various other villains receive calls too, including a black guy sleeping on a bench and a silver-haired dude. Back at the laundromat, Casey introduces Johnny to the old man Carmine, revealing that he is actually the Heat supervillain from the 70s. The three of them take a walk through the laundromat where Carmine explains that he uses this place to hide out. It's always best to hide in plain sight, in a place that's busy and makes money. Laundromats, garbage collection centers, or butcher shops tend to be the best places. While walking, Johnny takes interest in some old newspaper pages hung up on the wall, all of them about the heat. Carmine sees this interest and starts talking about his glory days, how back in the day Chicago was the birthplace of the first ever supervillains. The supervillains would work alongside gangs and the mafia with people like Al Capone. The Heat was the first ever supervillain and eventually started to distance himself from the mafia. Instead, he gathered up a bunch of supervillains from the city and formed a gang of his own, known as the Villain Brothers. Also hanging on the wall is the Heat's old costume, with 2 flame canisters. Carmine reveals that he doesn't actually have any superpowers. His fire abilities just came from a flamethrower. The 3 continue walking until they arrive at Carmine's office. Inside are the Diesel brothers and the silver-haired guy, whose name is Ghost. Everyone introduces themselves and Carmine thanks them all for coming. He starts talking about how rough things are for villains nowadays. With all the superheroes around, it's hard to do anything without the support of the network. And even if you are a part of the network, Mr. Matz takes a cut of everyone's money, so making a living is hard. Everyone agrees with Carmine and they bond over the fact that they have all spent time in Supermax prison because of how tough things are. However, Ghost urges Carmine to get to the point and tell them about this big job he has planned. He knows it must be something ridiculous and doubts that it can be pulled off by a bunch of low-rate villains like the ones in this office. Johnny takes offense to this comment and squares up with Ghost. Things escalate and Johnny gets so angry he uses his powers to turn off the electricity around the city. Ghost is unimpressed and shows off his own power, walking straight through Johnny with ease. A short cutscene shows Ghost's backstory. He had a hard time making friends growing up as everyone wanted to use him for his powers. At one point he found himself in prison where he pissed off the wrong people. They were about to chop off his finger when Carmine appeared out of nowhere to save him. Carmine allowed Ghost to join his gang of supervillains, and from that day on Ghost was no longer alone in the world. Back in the office, Johnny calms down and Carmine begins explaining the job. The network isn't involved in any way and every single person in this office has their own unique role to play, so they shouldn't fight and should get along. Carmine states that they can't do the actual job yet and there is something they need to do first. They are missing a team member who ran into some bad luck and needs rescuing. He is talking about TK, who got caught by the Gladiator while trying to steal a car. TK has the power to move things with his mind and tried to fight back against the Gladiator but was unsuccessful. He was arrested and taken into custody. He is about to be transported in a top-of-the-line military vehicle. TK is essential to the job and the team need to rescue him before he is taken to prison. Everyone is hesitant, but Carmine insists that they can't do the actual job without TK. In the end, everyone agrees to do the rescue mission, though Johnny is curious how they are going to afford everything they need. Carmine explains that everything has been taken care of. He paid a visit to one of his old friends from back in the day in Romania. After this guy heard about the job, he was all in and agreed to cover all the expenses, providing them with all the money they need. Also, Mr. Matz and the network are currently all busy, so the group should be safe to operate without worrying about the network getting involved. Carmine promises to fill everyone in on the actual job once TK has been rescued, assuring them that this job is going to make them all millionaires. If they pull it off, it will be the biggest job in 75 years and every newspaper will write about it for years to come. The group make a toast in preparation for their success. They begin their mission to rescue TK, who is loaded onto a military aircraft. The guards mock the villain and even give him an electric shock until they are scolded by the Gladiator. The Gladiator is tagging along for the ride. He jumps on top of the plane and straddles it before giving it a light spanking. The pilots set off and the plane begins its flight to take TK to prison. At another airport, Carmine and Johnny distract a receptionist by staging an accident where they pretend that someone has died. This allows the two of them to stroll past everyone and gain access to a plane of their own. Ghost is already on board and the Diesel brothers are close behind, using their powers of invincibility to heal their bodies after pretending to be dead earlier. The group set off in the plane and Carmine tells Johnny not to be nervous. Everything is going according to plan. Johnny isn't nervous though, he was born to do this kind of stuff. Casey is somewhere in the middle of the ocean tracking the two planes on a tablet. Eventually, the two planes cross paths as Carmine flies above the military aircraft. All of a sudden, the pilots transporting TK lose access to their radio communication. This is thanks to Johnny, who is using his powers to block their signal. The Diesel brothers are the first to make a move, diving out of the plane and onto the military aircraft. One of them lands right into the plane's propeller, getting sliced into pieces like a strawberry smoothie. The other brother is more graceful, attempting to take out the Gladiator with his landing. Unfortunately, the gladiator blocks the attack and the two begin to fight. Ghost jumps down to the aircraft next, phasing through the floor and right in front of TK. The guards attempt to shoot him, but the bullets just pass straight through his body. Ghost takes them out one by shooting them all with tranquilizer bullets that knock them out. He then tells TK that they have come here to save him and that he shouldn't worry. The pilots hear this commotion and start to get nervous when things get silent. Ghost sticks his head through the wall, telling them to just keep flying and not to try anything. The pilots attempt to speed up to get to their destination quicker, but Johnny uses his powers again to slow them down and keep them at an appropriate speed. On top of the aircraft, the gladiator demands to know who the villains are, while smacking one of the Diesel brothers around like a disobedient child. With the Diesel brothers' power of invincibility, though, he just heals right up, mocking the gladiator in the process. He starts whipping the gladiator repeatedly with an electric whip. The fight goes back and forth with the gladiator dealing most of the damage. Meanwhile, Ghost struggles to unlock the code to the device keeping TK restrained. The guards are all drowsy after being shot and mock him, saying that he should just give up and that he will never figure out the code. The plane begins to fly into a storm cloud and the fight between the Diesel brother and the gladiator comes to an end. The gladiator rips off his arm and throws it off to the side. He then threatens to do the same to his head. However, the Diesel brother's arm quickly heals back together and he grabs a hold of the gladiator. His whip gets caught inside the plane propeller, which flings the two of them off of the aircraft and into the ocean. After landing into the ocean, the gladiator falls into a trance. He sees fish that begin talking to him, along with a mermaid and merman who sing for the hero and even kiss him on the cheek. It is revealed that this is just an illusion planted by Casey, who has arrived to pick the Diesel brothers up. The brother that fell inside of the plane propeller is sitting inside an icebox after Casey fished his body parts out of the ocean one by one. The brothers are happy to be reunited with each other and everything is going great. Back on the plane, Ghost is still struggling with the code, demanding that the guards tell him at once. They are still laughing though, drooling and in a haze. The group considers abandoning the mission until Johnny comes up with an idea. He takes control of the wheel to get closer to the military aircraft. Once close enough, Johnny uses his powers to completely shut off the power to the military aircraft, causing it to begin falling to the earth rapidly. The pilots quickly become panicked when they realize they can no longer control the aircraft, and that they are going to die. Johnny explains that there is nothing he can do to fix the aircraft and that it is going to crash no matter what now. The only person that can stop the aircraft is TK with his powers of being able to move things using his mind. Ghost tells this to the guards on the aircraft. If they don't tell him the code to free TK, then everyone on board is going to die. The guards have no choice and give up the code. TK is released at the last second and uses his powers to stop the plane moments before it reaches the ground. Everyone cheers in celebration after a successful rescue. TK throws the guards and the pilots off the aircraft and they fly back to land. Sometime later, everyone meets in a fancy building where Carmine thanks the group for the work rescuing TK. Now they can get on to the actual job. There is just one last person that Carmine is waiting on. He will be arriving soon. Carmine explains that the job will be taking place tomorrow and he needs every villain here to pull it off. He needs them to decide right here and now if they are in or out. The heist will involve breaking inside the Union of Justice. After hearing this, everyone freaks out, thinking Carmine must be crazy to suggest breaking inside of the superheroes' headquarters. They all start to panic over a superhero named Brainwave, who can read people's thoughts. They hope he isn't reading their thoughts right now, otherwise they are all in trouble. Carmine calms them down, stating that Brainwave isn't at the Union of Justice right now. Instead, he is at an awards show in Beijing, so they don't have to worry about him. One by one, the villains agree to take part in the heist despite it sounding crazy. Stealing from the Union of Justice would make them legendary, and $50 million split between them is hard to turn down. Ghost asks Carmine what exactly they are going to steal from the Union of Justice. Carmine says that they are going to steal the helmet that belonged to a supervillain named Count Orlok, a villain that Carmine used to work with in the 70s who has powerful abilities. His helmet was taken from him by the Union of Justice and is being kept at the headquarters. Count Orlok is the person from Romania who gave them the money to fund this heist, as he really wants his helmet back. Without his helmet, his powers are only half as strong. Ghost knows the helmet that Carmine is talking about. He has heard rumors that if anyone other than Count Orlok tries to use it, then they end up going insane. Casey still doesn't understand how they are going to pull a heist like this off. The Union of Justice is full of superheroes other than Brainwave, the security is tight, and it is always full of tourists. Carmine tells her to shut the f*** up with her whining and that he has everything covered. His plan is perfect. Even Johnny is on board, telling Casey that this is the one big heist they have been looking for so they can retire. However, Casey is hesitant. The last guy that Carmine said was coming hasn't even shown up yet, and they are supposed to be doing the heist tomorrow. Until the last member shows up, Casey says she refuses to take part. As she says this, everyone begins looking out the window. Outside it is pouring with rain, but there is a black guy standing in the street. He is able to control the weather and has made it so none of the rain is hitting him. His name is Forecast and he calls Carmine, apologizing for being late as the subway was running late. After seeing the final team member, Casey immediately agrees to take part. Everything is perfect and the villains can't believe they are going to be doing a big job like this without the network even knowing. Elsewhere, two guards nervously stand outside a prison waiting on a car to arrive. When the car does, we see that Mr. Matz, the leader of the network, is inside. While he is passing, one of the guards' phones starts to ring, which only makes them more nervous. Once Mr. Matz has driven by, they take a sigh of relief, being thankful that they are still alive after that. Annoying Mr. Matz is an immediate death sentence. Mr. Matz is escorted inside the prison through many layers of security. Inside is a party taking place, filled with drinks, women, villains, and important members of the network. Mr. Matz takes the stage and thanks everyone for coming to the party. Before they have a good time, there are two important things he wants to announce. First of all, he is going to be retiring from the villain world as of today after a long life in the business. He tells the story of how he blew his mother's head off when he was a baby because he didn't like the taste of her mommy milkers.
I am disgusted.
He has been a villain his entire life and it is about time he retires. His second announcement is about the network. After his retirement, the network will still continue. It will be run by his subordinates. The audience breaks into applause as Mr. Matz exits the stage. Before leaving, he tells his subordinates to see which person stops clapping first, so he can blow their head off. He leaves the prison and party and drives away. As he drives past the two guards again, one of them is still messing with her phone scrolling through memes on Reddit. This annoys Mr. Matz and he makes their heads explode as he drives away. A flashback shows Casey when she was much younger, blowing a bubble and planning something with her friends. She ambushes some candy dealers and uses her powers to put them to sleep. Her friends steal the candy and sell it on the street, giving Casey a share of the money for her help. Though one day her friends tell her that they no longer want to work with her as her powers scare them. All alone, she goes to a bar trying to find new people to work with so she can make a living. Here she came across Carmine, who approached her and gave her some life advice. At first, Casey is dismissive of the old man and leaves the bar. However, Carmine follows her outside, offering her some work and asking if she is interested. This is how the two of them first met many years ago. Now they are about to pull off the biggest heist of their lives. Johnny and Casey sign into a hotel room under fake names the night before the heist. They pretend to be a married couple on their honeymoon. Casey feels a little melancholy about this since the marriage is only pretend. But Johnny cheers her up by saying the two of them can both get married for real after they pull this job off. Tomorrow is the day that everything changes for them. They receive a call from Carmine, who is in another room. He recommends they get some sleep tonight. They can party all they want once the heist is finished. Ghost is also in a hotel room, and he is struggling to get to sleep, thinking about everything that could go wrong tomorrow. He reads a book to try and keep his mind off of things. The Diesel brothers aren't even trying to sleep. Instead, they are walking around the hotel carelessly. Meanwhile, TK and Forecast aren't at the hotel and instead are on an overnight train ride. They arrive all the way at Pittsburgh. The next morning, the sun shines bright and everything seems normal. Johnny, Carmine, and the other villains are running a hot dog cart right outside the Union of Justice. Ghost asks Casey to plant an illusion inside his mind if he ends up dying on this job. He wants to see something nice in his final moments if things all go wrong. Johnny thinks this is a stupid request. He wants to spend his final moments in the real world and not inside some illusion. He wants Casey's big bunda to be the last thing he sees on this earth. A crowd is gathered outside the Union of Justice, watching all the superheroes entering the building one by one. First is the Utopian, the leader of the Union of Justice. Next is Paragon and his girlfriend Red Ruby. A bunch of heroes have all gathered here today for one of their regular meetings. The Praetorian is the final hero to arrive to this meeting, which makes the crowd go wild. The group wait patiently inside the hot dog cart for the heist to begin. Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, a young couple is at a graveyard. They spot the grave of a famous dead villain known as the Necromancer and decide to get a selfie with it so they can show their 12 followers on Instagram how pathetic their lives are. All of a sudden, the ground starts to shake and the dead begin crawling out of the graves in the graveyard. It's like something out of a zombie movie. The Necromancer comes back to life too, busting out of his grave and into the sky. In the city, two cops are sitting in a police car when they spot something coming over the hill. Forget about the Walking Dead, this is the Cycling Dead. All the zombies from the graveyard are heading into the city with the Necromancer flying above. Word quickly spreads and the news covers the story, saying how the Necromancer was killed 9 years ago but must have somehow used his powers to return from the dead. All of the heroes at the Union of Justice quickly leave the building to head to Pittsburgh, desperate to put the rotting corpse back in the ground. Everything is going according to plan, and Carmine and the villains enter the Union of Justice with all the heroes distracted. The villains use their powers to take out the security systems and to remove themselves from the surveillance footage, hoping to slip in and out without anyone even knowing. Casey uses her powers to hide the group from all the tourists, essentially making them invisible. The dead cause a commotion in Pittsburgh, and it is revealed that this is all the work of TK and Forecast, who are sitting in a nearby cafe. TK is using his powers to control the bodies of the dead, and Forecast is making it rain to create ambience.
That is an Avengers level threat.
The heroes quickly show up to deal with the problem. The gang search through the Union of Justice trying to find the helmet they are looking for. Eventually, they all stumble upon it, Count Orlok's helmet. It is revealed that the Praetorian didn't go to deal with the zombies like all the other heroes because he was using the bathroom. Bro had to take a massive shit. He is surprised when the cleaning lady informs him that everyone has left to go to Pittsburgh. She asks him what power he is going to use to take care of the zombies when he gets there. The Praetorian explains that he currently has the power of super hearing, being able to hear voices from far away. Using this power, he hears the heist taking place downstairs and realizes what is going on here. Instead of going to Pittsburgh to help the others, he heads to the elevator to confront the thieves. He spots Count Orlok's head floating and realizes they are using powers to appear invisible. He sends a shockwave towards the villains, sending Ghost flying backwards and shattering the helmet. Everyone gasps at the sight of the destroyed helmet, until the Praetorian explains that the helmet was just a replica, along with everything else on display. All the real stuff is kept safe in a secure underground vault. After hearing this, Ghost phases through the floors to try and find it. The Praetorian manages to knock out Casey by smacking her against a wall. This breaks the illusion and makes all the villains visible again. The Praetorian smiles at the sight of Johnny, recognizing him from the jewelry heist. Many of the tourists flee from the building suspecting a fight is about to take place. Out of anyone, Johnny can't believe that they have to deal with the Praetorian. With over 200 powers, he is one of the strongest heroes there is. Johnny quickly rushes to protect Casey as the Praetorian sends a wave of water in their direction. He was hoping for a better power than water and curses his random abilities. The villains use this opportunity to attempt to make a run for it. Carmine carries Casey's unconscious body until they are stopped when the Praetorian uses super strength to throw a large rock in front of them. He isn't going to let Johnny get away again. Johnny tells Carmine to make a run for it with Casey while he attempts to hold the hero back. The Praetorian uses laser eyes, blasting them all over the place, destroying the building and even killing innocent civilians. The Diesel brothers appear from behind trying to get the jump on him but fail miserably. He makes it look easy, tossing the brothers around and into Johnny. While this is happening, Ghost makes it all the way to the underground vault in search of the real helmet, entering a room with the word danger and triggering floor sensors to go off. The other heroes are still in Pittsburgh defeating the horde of zombies. One of the heroes compares it to playing Call of Duty Zombies. The Utopian tells the citizens of Pittsburgh that the Union of Justice is here to save them and that all will be okay soon. TK and Forecast watch everything from a rooftop. It seems like there are too many zombies for the heroes to handle until a hero named Molecule Master shows up, changing the molecular makeup of the zombies' clothes to steel, causing them to fall to the floor from the weight. With the zombies taken care of, the heroes focus their attention on the necromancer. The Utopian flies up into the sky to face off with the dead villain while a news helicopter watches nearby. The Utopian and the necromancer are old school arch enemies and the media can't wait to see them battle again. TK and Forecast smile from the rooftop, seeing their job here is pretty much complete, though the gladiator appears as if out of nowhere in front of them. Fortunately, he doesn't recognize their faces and thinks they are just regular civilians. The gladiator tells TK and Forecast that it is dangerous here and that they should leave. The two of them do as they are told, not wanting to get caught. Back at the Union of Justice, the Praetorian is still fighting with the villains, completely destroying the building in the process. Ghost notices all this wreckage and hides, accidentally stumbling upon the real Count Orlok helmet in the process. The Praetorian has Johnny cornered with a giant fireball lit up in each hand. Johnny uses his brains, using his powers to trigger the building's sprinkle system to extinguish the Praetorian. This causes the room to fill with smoke, which allows Johnny to run away. As he is running, he bumps into Ghost, who now has the helmet. Carmine spots them too, informing Ghost to put the helmet on and say a magic spell which will save them. Ghost doesn't want to though, stating that the helmet is cursed and that he doesn't want to go crazy by putting it on. The Praetorian recovers and quickly starts approaching again, so Ghost is left with no choice. He puts the helmet on and hopes for the best, wishing for everyone to be taken to a safe place far away from here. At the last second, Carmine yells out for them to be taken to a place called Black Rock. Just like that, they teleport away from the Praetorian. TK and Forecast also teleport along with them. The Utopian quickly finishes his battle with the necromancer, throwing him to the ground like a meteor. He He immediately receives a phone call informing him that the Union of Justice headquarters has been attacked while everyone else was away. The group of villains teleport to Black Rock just as they wished for, a place in Romania where they planned to meet Count Orlok to get their money. The heist was successful, but everyone admits that it was a close call. They are swiftly met by a butler who walks in with champagne, telling everyone that Count Orlok should be arriving shortly with their money, so they should all make themselves at home. With his helmet returned, Count Orlok wants to make a comeback as one of the greatest villains in the world. To pass the time, Johnny suggests that Carmine tell some old stories from the 70s, when he and Count Orlok were villains together. They were both members of a syndicate of villains created by Carmine. He led them as the Heat. Count Orlok worked alongside him, and Mr. Mats was even part of the group, under the alias the Bastard. Back at that time there wasn't a lot of superheroes, though the population was steadily increasing over the years. Mr. Mats and Count Orlok never got along, and the Heat would frequently have to break up fights between them. Their headquarters was located right here in Black Rock, Romania. They created a group of supervillains known as the Syndicate. However, they quickly realized that villains don't work well together. Eventually, the Syndicate fell apart. Everyone left. Mr. Mats went off to start the network and the Heat retired. Count Orlok remained at Black Rock all alone. It has been 30 years since then, and now here Carmine is, back at Black Rock again. While Carmine is busy telling old stories, Casey takes a bath and slips into some clean clothes, stepping out of the bathroom some time later to see that everyone is already wasted from drinking too much champagne. They ordered pizza not long ago and are expecting it to arrive soon.
Pizza time.
As soon as the bell rings, the Diesel brothers rush to the door to get it. Unfortunately, they quickly realize that it isn't the pizza man at the door. Instead, it is the Praetorian who has tracked the villains down. Using his powers, he makes everyone freeze on the spot so that they cannot move. They also cannot talk or use their abilities. Much to everyone's surprise, Mr. Mats walks in right behind the Praetorian, revealing that the superhero has been working alongside the villain secretly. Mr. Mats is surprised to see the Heat and Count Orlok are reuniting with each other. The Praetorian managed to track the place down after Carmine stupidly said where they were teleporting to whilst making the wish. While it's true that Mr. Mats has retired and no longer leads the network, he still has to protect what he has spent his life building. He isn't happy that they all decided to do a big job like this without giving a cut of the money to the network. As punishment, Mr. Mats is going to take all of their profits when Count Orlok arrives. He blows off the head of the butler to prove that he means business. Eventually, Count Orlok arrives and jumps out to surprise everyone, expecting them to be happy to see him. He puts the money on a nearby table and looks around the room for his helmet. That's when he spots Mr. Mats, who makes his head explode before he can even do anything. Mr. Mats then takes all of the money and walks off. Before leaving, the Praetorian threatens everyone. If they tell anyone about what they saw today, then he will have to kill all of them. After this happens, everyone is miserable and they go to a bar to drown their sorrows. On the news is the Praetorian celebrating his victory over the villains who tried to steal from the Union of Justice today. Johnny notices Carmine drinking a little too much and tells him to take it easy. Carmine ignores him and asks the bartender for another shot. Today went terribly. They don't have Count Orlok's helmet, and even if they did, Count Orlok is dead. Their big heist was a failure. Tensions quickly grow between the team and fights start to erupt. Ghost tries to leave and gets an axe thrown at him by one of the Diesel brothers. He retaliates by throwing the axe back and the two get into a fight. While Johnny is trying to separate the two of them, Casey walks out of the bar. Forecast stops everyone fighting by making it rain inside the bar. One by one the villains start to leave, until it is just Carmine and Johnny left in the bar. Carmine is passed out from drinking too much, so Johnny decides to leave too, taking a long look at his sad, pathetic reflection in the window. The next day he is driving downtown with Casey trying to cheer her up. He notices she isn't doing well and so parks the car to speak to her. Suddenly she bursts into a rage, crying and punching the car. Nothing she does ever goes right and she feels like a complete idiot. Johnny hugs her and out of the corner of his eye he spots a church, which gives him an idea. He takes Casey outside and gets down on one knee. Even if they can't be villains, Johnny still wants to spend his life with Casey. Whatever happens, he just wants to be with her. He uses his powers to create an electric ring since he is such a broke loser he can't afford a real one. Casey agrees to marry him and the two share a kiss in the middle of the street. While preparing for the wedding, Johnny is shaving when he hears his doorbell ring. He goes downstairs to check who it is, but there is no one there. Suddenly, a bag is put over his head and he is teleported inside a car. It's his old supervillain friends who want to celebrate Johnny's last night as a single man. They go to a club and drink until it is dark out and they are thrown out. Johnny wants to get home, but his friends want to stay out for some more drinks. With no money, Johnny uses his powers to steal from a nearby ATM, which reminds him of his days as a teenager, when all he would do was steal from ATMs. While badly drunk, Johnny's friends bring up the idea of doing a heist. One last heist before Johnny's wedding. They say that money is the #1 reason for divorce and his friends don't want Johnny to have that problem with Casey. Johnny succumbs to the peer pressure and goes on the heist with his friends. They ride down the street, stealing from every single ATM they pass by, collecting entire bags of money. Johnny decides to make a stop at a store to steal a present for his new wife. They crash into a bookstore where Johnny looks for books that Casey would like, a present that his friends think is boring. Police sirens can be heard approaching from the distance, and so the villains make a desperate escape, sprinting down to the subway carrying whatever bags they can. The cops are close behind along with the Praetorian. The villains quickly get onto a train while the cops explain the situation to the Praetorian. The Praetorian wastes no time grabbing onto the train and phasing inside to confront the villains. Johnny abandons his friends, getting out of the train at the next stop and trying to get away. He doesn't want to go back to prison and wants to run away with his new wife. He thinks he is in the clear but sees that the Praetorian isn't the only hero around. The Gladiator has also shown up and hits Johnny with a knuckle sandwich. And just like that, Johnny is caught by the cops and sent back to prison. The inmates taunt him, knowing it would only be a matter of time before he found himself back inside. Meanwhile, Casey is at the church in her wedding dress, wondering why Johnny has not shown up yet. Eventually, she realizes that he isn't going to show up. She sneaks out the back of the church and throws her dress into the trash before setting it on fire. 5 years pass since this day and a lot happens during this time. The Praetorian is caught as a villain and is kicked out of the Union of Justice. The Praetorian was a really close friend to the Gladiator, and the Gladiator feels deeply betrayed by the Praetorian's actions. Carmine has turned to gambling and is currently at a casino about to win big. The owners of the casino see him on camera and suspect he must be using a superpower to cheat the system, though they can't detect anything. After some searching, the security find a young guy hiding inside a car on the phone. This young guy has the ability to see 30 seconds into the future and was telling Carmine what numbers to bet on. They both are bought before the owner of the casino, who isn't happy. The owner kills the young guy by dropping a heavy cigar box onto his head. He then threatens Carmine for trying to steal from him, demanding that the old man bring him $100 million in 1 month or else he will kill him. After 5 long years in prison, Johnny is released, and the first thing he does is go and see Casey, who is working as a waitress. The two fight over Johnny's carelessness and how bad of a situation they are both in. Casey doesn't want anything to do with Johnny and demands that he leave. At this moment, the door bursts open and Carmine comes stumbling inside. He's in bad shape and begs Johnny and Casey for help. He explains to them how he needs to make $100 million in 1 month or he loses his life. They take him back home and put him to bed. Casey and Johnny talk privately downstairs. Both of them are in disbelief that Carmine would be so stupid as to try and scam a casino. 100 million seems impossible, and they know they need to figure something out to save Carmine. Johnny reveals to Casey that he picked up some valuable information while in prison that could be useful in this situation. Casey can't believe Johnny is seriously considering trying to do another heist. She sees that he hasn't changed one bit and leaves, going to get a fake passport so Carmine can sneak out of the country. That night, Johnny watches Carmine sleep while smiling like some kind of creepy murderer. He knows Carmine isn't the type to run away from his problems and starts to fantasize about how they can come up with the money while reading comic books. Later, the two of them go to Ghost's apartment to try and recruit him for a new job. He refuses though, as he has left the villain life behind and is now a successful architect. They go to recruit TK next, who is working a lousy delivery job. They see he is struggling at his current job and offer him another shot at hitting the big time. Forecast is selling umbrellas on the street, using his powers to make it rain so that he can get more sales. Whereas the Diesel brothers are working as cage fighters, using their powers of invincibility to put on a hell of a performance. Johnny and Carmine visit the whole gang, attempting to get them back together again. While they are doing this, Casey goes to an old acquaintance to try and get a fake passport and airplane ticket for Carmine. Casey becomes offended when the acquaintance calls her a low-rank villain, dismissing her and telling her to come back for the passport later. This makes Casey furious. She storms down the street looking at everyone around her who are all living better lives than her. It takes a lot of convincing, but Johnny and Carmine get the old gang back together, including Ghost. When Casey comes home, she even agrees to take part herself, wanting to improve her life quickly. They get started on the heist that Johnny has planned. That night, Johnny goes to dinner at a fancy restaurant while Casey, Carmine, and Ghost watch from nearby windows. At the dinner, Johnny meets with a bald man in a suit for a date. It looks like Johnny swings both ways. It is quickly revealed that the bald guy is actually the Gladiator. Johnny figured out his real identity while in prison, and also found out that the Gladiator is a homosexual.
Gays! He's gay!
He's so deep in the closet that he's probably found Narnia. He also frequently cheats on his wife with random men from dating apps. Bro is for the streets. Johnny starts to use this information to blackmail the Gladiator, demanding that the hero help out with his heist or he will leak all this information to the public. Johnny explains that the target of the heist is a long way from here at a casino on an island in the south of Japan. The casino is owned by the now retired Mr. Matz, who spends his days on the island. The team freak out and think Johnny is crazy after hearing his target is Mr. Matz. The Praetorian has also moved to the island to work alongside Mr. Matz after getting outed as a villain. Johnny knows that the Gladiator and the Praetorian have a rough history together. He's offering the Gladiator a chance to get revenge and also agrees to donate the Gladiator's cut of the money to an LGBT charity. The Gladiator doesn't want the public to know he cheats on his wife with men, so he reluctantly agrees to join Johnny's team. Everyone meets back at Johnny's place to go over the plan. There's only one airport on the island, which probably has boosted security. Some of the team take a plane there. Ghost phases through the floor of the plane to avoid going through customs, whereas Casey and Johnny go through customs with Casey using her illusion powers to get them through safely with the Diesel brothers hiding in their suitcases. TK, Forecast, and Carmine catch a ferry to the island until they get close enough for TK to fly them ashore. The Gladiator makes his own way to the island, swimming across the ocean like Michael Phelps. With everyone there safely and without being spotted, they spend some time in the hot springs. While there, the Diesel brothers apologize to the Gladiator for fighting with him on top of the military aircraft earlier. The Gladiator orders them not to talk to him. The only reason he agreed to come here is to get revenge on the Praetorian. After relaxing, the group gets started with Johnny's plan. It starts with Casey and one of the Diesel brothers walking right up to Mr. Matt's front door. They pretend they are professors looking for funding for a new transport system being developed. Mr. Matt's butler is too busy staring at Casey's chest balloons to properly inspect their IDs. He takes them to go and see Mr. Matt's, walking straight past the Praetorian. They have a 20-minute slot to make their pitch. Casey and the Diesel brother get to work on trying to get Mr. Matt's to fund their time machine. 20 minutes later, and Mr. Matz turns them down, stating that he has no use for a time machine. The Diesel brother asks to use the bathroom because he needs to drop a big fat number 2. While he is painting the bathroom brown, Casey talks with Mr. Matz about all the artwork he has hung up on the wall, while the creepy butler tries to squeeze her cheeks. Mr. Matz apologizes to Casey for turning down her time machine offer, but he has no desire to invest in new things and just wants to enjoy retirement. Even his art collection isn't an investment, it's just something he does for fun. Eventually, the Diesel brother finishes his deuce. Once again, Mr. Matz apologizes for rejecting their offer before leaving with the Praetorian. While this is happening, all of the other villains take this time to take a look inside the casino to pass the time. That night, everyone meets up again. It turns out Casey wasn't actually trying to get funding for a time machine. She just needed to get close to Mr. Matz to extract information from him. While the creepy butler was touching her, she was able to extract important security information from his mind. Johnny is impressed at Casey's power. The thing they are trying to steal from the casino is a briefcase located in the vault at the very lowest level of the casino. The guys doubt that all this could be worth it just for one suitcase. However, Johnny explains that it is a special kind of briefcase, with enough space inside of it to hold an entire warehouse. The only problem is that underneath the casino is a bunch of traps that they will all need to get past. The biggest issue is the superpower detectors, devices that make it so that if anyone uses a superpower, an alarm gets set off. They will need to find a way to deactivate this system before they do anything else. After coming up with their plan, they raise a toast. Carmine thanks everyone for coming together to help him gather the 100 million he needs not to die. Johnny brings out a case containing matching suits for everyone to wear during the heist. While everyone is happy about how well things are going, Casey wanders off on her own and heads down to the beach. Johnny joins her after a while and the two talk by themselves. Casey has done her part in the heist and is no longer needed, so she is going to leave early tomorrow via the airport. Johnny gets sentimental, admitting that he has done a lot of stupid things in his life. The stupidest thing he ever did was leaving Casey at the altar. He tells Casey to look up while a plane flies by hanging an "I'm sorry" sign. He promises Casey that this will really be the last heist they do before retiring. The two kiss, and earlier the next morning, Casey heads for the airport. Everyone else gets ready to get down to business. They split into two groups. One group sneaks into the casino from a cave in a nearby cliff. Here they will destroy all the backup security systems. Group 2 heads into a security room near the mansion to disable all of the superpower detection devices. Group 2 accidentally set off an alarm though, and a bunch of robot ninjas jump out to fight them. The group have to try and fight them without using their powers, or they will set off even more alarms. Luckily, Carmine doesn't have any superpowers, so he uses his flamethrower to defeat the ninjas. Group 1 successfully destroy the backup systems, and Group 2 successfully turn off the superpower detection system. so now everyone can freely use their powers. With their powers, it doesn't take long for the villains to take care of all the stupid robot ninjas. At the airport, Casey is still trying to get a flight out and is running into some problems with her ticket. The Praetorian appears behind her and puts his arm on her shoulder. He recognized her face when she came to the mansion earlier and knows she is planning something. Mr. Matz is there too and wants to know what's going on. They take Casey back to the mansion and tie her up. Mr. Matz says she will learn her lesson soon enough for trying to mess with him. Back to the heist, Group 1 and Group 2 reunite to continue on their journey underground, now able to use their powers. Forecast freezes the hinges on a door which allows them to break it open more easily. They then jump to the bottom of a giant bottomless pit, similar to your mother's pussy. At the bottom they come across another door which they avoid completely. Dose goes through a nearby wall and counts 9 guards. One of the Diesel brothers then smashes through the wall, taking out the guards in the process. The final obstacle before the vault is a trap that looks just like a long hallway. On the wall are various weapons that will annihilate anyone that tries to walk through. At the end of the hallway is a singular red button which will disable all the weapons. The Diesel brothers take point and race each other to the end, both of them repeatedly getting cut down and put back together again by their powers. About 5 minutes later, one of them makes a dive for the red button, headbutting it. He brags about beating his brother in the race and everyone safely walks through the hallway. The final doorway is melted by the heat. In the next room is the suitcase they are looking for, and inside is a whole warehouse full of gold and treasure. It has to be at least $1 billion. They take a selfie to flex on the NPCs. Then they leave as the security systems will be restarting soon. At Mr. Matt's mansion, Casey is injected with a truth serum. Instead of answering Mr. Matt's questions, she instead goes on a rant, calling Mr. Matz an empty old man who is just a washed-up pretentious cunt. After the rant, Mr. Matz asks Casey why she came here, and Casey reveals that she is here to steal from him. The creepy butler immediately checks the security cameras and sees she is telling the truth. He sends the Praetorian down to the underground vault to deal with things. He teleports in front of the group, calling them all idiots. Mr. Matz talks over the speaker system, wanting to know why they would be so foolish as to attempt to steal from him. Johnny mockingly says it's because Mr. Matz is too old. Bro probably has to get up multiple times in the middle of the night to pee. Johnny continues ripping into the grandpa, not even seeming mildly frightened that the Praetorian is in front of them. Johnny isn't scared because he brought the Gladiator to deal with the Praetorian specifically. However, when Johnny asks for help, the Gladiator just stands around doing nothing. He watches as the Praetorian beats up every single one of the villains. While this is happening, Mr. Matz attempts to make Casey's head explode, telling his creepy butler to leave them in peace. The entire group gets ran through by the Praetorian. Only when they have been defeated does the Gladiator step up to fight. He is disgusted by the Praetorian and how he betrayed the Union of Justice. Seeing that the Gladiator is here scares the Praetorian. He tries to fight, but the Gladiator is just too strong, blocking all of his strikes and pounding him into the ground. In the end, the Praetorian gets laid out flat like a pancake. The group worries that the Gladiator killed him, but the Gladiator assures them that the Praetorian is still alive, just barely. The group keeps moving. Mr. Matz bursts into a rage, furious that some low-rank villains are getting the best of him. In his rage, he pops Casey's head like a cherry. All of a sudden, Mr. Matz looks around and notices something isn't right. A painting on the wall is wrong, and in the chair is the creepy butler, not Casey. It turns out the whole thing was just an illusion planted by Casey while she escaped. She is picked up in a boat by the others, who sail away victorious. Mr. Matz can't believe he was tricked like this. He kills a pointless background character out of anger. Bro is not happy one bit. On the boat, everyone celebrates, and Johnny hugs Casey. Everyone splits their share of the money and goes their separate ways, 100 million each. Carmine paid off his debts. TK took his family on a trip to East Asia on a fancy yacht. Forecast invested in space venture. Ghost spent his money on buying land in Greece. One of the Diesel brothers used the money to fund a new time machine project he came up with, whereas the other Diesel brother spent his share on girls and booze. The Gladiator wanted to make sure he could never be blackmailed again, revealing to the world that he is gay and cheated on his wife. The public appreciated his honesty and he became popular again. Johnny sent the selfie of the heist to his old chubby nerdy friend from school, who has now lost weight and is working at a news company. The old friend used the selfie to write a hit piece, blaming the heist on the current leaders of the network. After reading the news, Mr. Matz fell for it, believing he had been betrayed by the people he left in charge of the network after retiring. He paid them a visit and killed every single one of them to satisfy his thirst for vengeance. The anime ends with Johnny and Casey on a hot air balloon. Johnny points down to the ground and asks Casey to marry him. This time he actually has a ring because he isn't a broke, pathetic, weak, lonely loser anymore.